Oh, I'm Cynthia, and welcome to Creative Explorations with me. And today I am going to work on a few of these little landscape watercolor pieces. Well, they're sort of imaginary landscapes that come out of the washes or just the little doodles that I create with some watercolors. I've had a little bit of a hectic day and a hectic past few days, so I wasn't exactly sure what limited palette I wanted to use today. And also, I had labeled my paints a long time ago, and all of the labels are gone now. I'm pretty sure that I have raw sienna, burnt sienna, and raw umber here. And I was thinking I'm going to work with this burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, and um, I think it's called Aureolin. It's a yellow. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started here today. And I do have fans on. Once again, here in Michigan, it's in the 90s. Uh, we had 95 yesterday, and today I think it's about 91. So please forgive if it's roaring fans in the background. So I'm going to just put in some washes of color, and let me try to zoom in a little bit. I have a tendency sometimes to forget to zoom out and end up working off the screen, which I don't like doing that. Let's just see what happens when we put these three colors together on here. Just loosely. And the burnt sienna, you know, I'm using it as sort of my red here. So let's see what we get. And I'm working on this Meeden watercolor paper. These are 3 by 4 inch little pieces, and they're just fun to be able to just work quickly and put some color down. Move this. One thing that's always a challenge for me with these live streams is that, especially when it's humid here in Michigan this time of year, it's hard to continue to work on some of these sometimes because the paper just doesn't dry fast enough if I want to get a crisp detail. So just play around here and see what happens with keeping it loose and wet. Just putting some water down, and I'm going to mix up and see what other colors we can create with these three on my palette here, which is off screen, but I don't really have room. Let's see what this looks like here. That's ultramarine and burnt sienna. That's such a beautiful dark. And then ultramarine and Aureolin, I think it's called. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's kind of spelled. Ooh, it's got a green there. Of course, I like to let gravity do a little work here. See where that goes. And maybe vacuum up a little of this. My brush isn't wet. Hello, hello. Da Sanyi Sangoon, is that how you say it? Trying to say your name in the comments. Forgive me if I don't say it right. Okay, we've got a lot of water on this one too. Let's get some of that off of here. I like to just see if I can get on the screen here. Try to soak a little bit of that off. So if you're just joining me here today, I'm just playing around a little bit with some watercolor washes and a limited palette, and I might try to see if I can turn any of these little washes into some kind of subject matter. And if you've been here before, you know that I tend to find landscapes in the things that I work on. So I've been really liking putting the water down first without color, and then adding the color, letting it move around on the paper. And I'm using a limited palette today of ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and Aureolin. I think that's how you say it. It's kind of hard to say. One in pink. Well, I'm not really using pink today. I could add a little bit of let's add a little bit of Alizarin crimson to this. There you go. There's some pink. And I like these little cards. They come in little packs of 10. So I kind of work my way through 10 of them in a session here. Well, let's see if we add Alizarin crimson into the mix, what we get over here. Here's a nice purple with the blue and the Alizarin crimson. Nice purple. Let's do a little bit more color mixing off camera here. I wanted to put water on there first. I'll spray some on this time. Let's do that. Hi everyone, hello. Hope everyone's having a great day today. Hump day, right? Middle of the week. So, okay, I've got about 6 of these here. Let me see if I can back out a little bit. And what I think I can do right now is maybe go back to some of the first ones and add in some other marks. Here's one of the first ones. Let's bring in some darks here. Let me zoom back in. They're so small. They're only 3 by 4 inches. Maybe what we can do here too is, oh, I know what I want to do today. Maybe. Let's see how this works. I have some salt here. Put some salt on there. That's always kind of fun. I just put some water down, put the salt down, and we'll see how this looks in a few minutes. The salt absorbs the water, and sometimes it leaves a really nice, interesting pattern. I like to try to get some really darker darks in here. Again, I'm just using 3. For the most part, I added a little bit of alizarin crimson in there, but just trying to use 3 primary colors to create these little pieces. Let's see. Okay, worked on that one, that one. These are still pretty wet. I have some other blank sheets here. I think I'm going to work on those because the other ones are still pretty wet. It's, you know, it's pretty humid here in Michigan this time of year. These are still pretty wet, which is fine, but it starts to get a little heavy like this. Got a little heavy there, a little dark. And if you want to keep that lightness, transparency, you have to give it a minute to dry so you can get a little detail in there. Okay, what color do I want to work with now? I'm just, like I said, using these 3 colors to work on this. You know, one of the things that I hope by just doing these little watercolors is that, you know, you'll try something like this if you've ever thought you might want to try art. And sometimes you look at that blank page and it's like, oh gosh, what do I paint? You know, I like to just kind of come in here and put some colors down, just limit the number of colors that I'm using, and then, you know, just sort of play around with it a little bit and see where it leads. And, you know, you don't always have to have something in mind that you're trying to create. You know, it could just be something pretty abstract, and then maybe it reveals itself to be something else, an object or landscape, you know, to suggest itself as something else. Or just, you know, relaxing and having some fun with it. Let's see, I want to use some blue, but let's just do that. Well, let's see. Oh, this is the last piece of blank paper out of this pack. Get in the middle here. Trying to keep my water clean here. I really like some of these browns and golds that this combination of colors. It's ultramarine blue, Aureolin, I think that's how you say it, yellow, and burnt umber. Just a really nice combination of things. Okay, so I've done 10 of these little starts to these, and I've worked on a couple of them. Let's see where we are. Let me zoom out. I think I'm all the way out, so I'll try to arrange these. These are the ones we just did. Here's a couple more. And these were the ones that I came back in on earlier. Thank you. And you can do it too. It's so fun just to get some colors and layer them on and not think too much about it. And I wish, you know, some people take a blow dryer and they, you know, dry their paintings in their live stream. I don't want to subject everyone to that. So I sometimes come back to these after they're dry and do different things to them. Here's the other one. So that's 10 of them. These were the ones I added more to. See how this one got a little heavy? This is the one I put the salt crystals on. And you can see it's not dry yet, but when I take those off, it might look really kind of interesting under there. It starts to really suck the color up and create kind of a crystal form. Kind of fun. Okay, does anybody see anything in these? Like I like to start to see, personally I like to start to see a landscape, but I usually go back in after it's dry and kind of try to emphasize that if I see something. This is kind of fun over here, how that, a city in the distance, trees in the sky maybe. That's that bright yellow on its own, the Aureolin, but look how cool that looked with the blue. and some of that burnt sienna in there. You know, another fun thing to do with these, which I haven't done, is some people, I think you've probably seen their YouTube channels if you're at all interested in art, they like to draw over with pen, which can be really fun once it's dry. Like, you know, fine line markers, that's pretty fun. I like to look at them in all different directions and see what I end up with. I'm not sure what that one is. Let me know in the comments if you see one that you really like and that speaks to you and looks like something. These are still pretty wet. This looks like it could, the sun is going down, it's raining in the distance. This one needs more work, but I really like the colors in this one. I think I could put a little sky up there. This one too. Last but not least, well, these are really just the start of creating a little mini painting. And I don't know that I can, I mean, I could come back in. These are still kind of wet. You can't really get detail very well when with watercolor when the paper is still wet. I was just going to see if I could grab the ones I did last week. I'm not sure where they are. I set them somewhere. This was one from a couple weeks ago. This is much larger, but you know, I didn't really wait for it to dry, but then later I came back in and did a little bit more work on it, but you really need to let it dry to get that additional detail. And with the humidity, let's see, let's set these aside. And these couple could use a little bit of sky. So maybe I'll just put a little bit of, using this ultramarine, but I want to tone it down a little bit maybe. I don't know where you live, but here in Michigan, it sometimes seems like our sky color is more cobalt. I'm using ultramarine today, but ultramarine skies, yes, are cloudy kind of skies around here. It's kind of, maybe we can suggest some of those clouds. A few more suggestions of things. When this is completely dry, you know, it would be fun to come back in and just add a few little strokes for like some tree branches or tree trunks. I think that's still pretty wet in there. I don't know what this blue thing is coming up in the up here, but I could paint over that maybe. Need a little bit of a more pigment on here. can see it's pretty wet still. If we have it dry, then we get a nice clean edge. It's a boathouse. Maybe. Who knows? Well, let's see what else. Let's do something to this one. Well, we could go with this really dark, and maybe this one's gonna have a stormy atmosphere up here. Maybe not quite enough pigment in there. I could be using a smaller brush too. I'm just using one brush here today. Could get a bit of a finer line there with a smaller brush. Let me see if I can find a smaller brush. You know, that's just it. I don't really have a good small brush that's got a right, you know, a nice, some of my brushes are very old. That doesn't really have the right kind of point on it. Oh, maybe once it's wet, it's a little bit better. Some of these might even have been my great-grandmother's brushes. She painted with watercolors, sort of self-taught, kind of just like me. I don't know, maybe I don't want to make trees. Maybe I want to make something more geometric here. I'm adding a little bit of this alizarin crimson in here. I don't know, just play a little bit with it and see where it ends up. an old urban landscape maybe. And, you know, really it doesn't have to be anything, does it? It can be whatever you want to see in it and whatever you want to make it. This one's kind of interesting. I think these are a little bit drier now. Maybe I can do a little bit more with this one. I'm going to go back to my bigger brush for this one. This one has that alizarin crimson in it with the blue, because somebody earlier wanted me to paint something pink. So that's why this one's got purplish pink in it. This one might be just purely abstract. Why not? So you can't really get the full effect of what these look like until they're dry. And sometimes I try to post these over in my community notes. So if you've not been there before, go check it out. And I'll probably post some of these over there. And then sometimes I make other videos, you know, kind of reflecting back on some of these live streams. And of course, you can always watch the live stream replay. But unfortunately, YouTube does not let you go back in and, you know, edit the live stream to like add more footage, right? So you can't really go in afterward and like add the final results. I know this is just an abstract one, huh? Okay, well, I think that is going to wrap it up for today. And next Wednesday, I'm going to be doing a live stream from northern Michigan up near Traverse City, landscape painting outside. I don't know what I'm painting yet because I have never stayed where we're staying. So that should be fun and interesting. Let's see if I can get all of these in here. And this Saturday, I can't remember, I have something scheduled. Isn't that silly? I don't even remember what video I have scheduled for this Saturday, but I did create something, and it will be up instead of my usual Saturday live stream. Here we go. Here are the last ones. So there they are. I want to say thank you so much for joining me in this live stream or in the replay, and I will see you again soon.